Hello and welcome to this session on creating and progressing opportunities. Opportunities are used within Dynamics for recording potential sales and can also be used for tracking communications regarding a potential sale, as well as building pipeline reporting information. To create a new opportunity, select the drop-down arrow that you see here on the module selector. We can then select Sales, and then we'll select Opportunities. Once we have the opportunity selected, we'll then select this option here in the top left-hand corner, marked as New. We can then add in a little bit further information on what they're interested in. So I'm going to add into here possible reconfiguration. Once we've done that, we can then add in the account that the opportunity is with. And I'm just going to run a search for a datum, like so. The description could just be a little bit more detailed than the topic. We can then record in there the likelihood of this sale happening. So I'm just going to put in there a 40% likelihood. We can track further information for a bit more detail on the situation and the proposed need. And then further down, the opportunity will also track any quotes that have been issued for the work or the products. So from here, just going to select Save. And now that we've saved the opportunity, we're now prompted to work through these different steps with regards to the development stage, the proposal stage, and then finally the closing of the opportunity. Now, these steps here will do two things for you. First of all, they'll prompt you to carry out certain items within the process. So for instance, on here, identifying the contacts. I've identified a company, but I haven't identified who this is with. So this serves as a useful reminder to carry out those actions. That's one of the purposes of these steps here. The other purpose is that it allows you to create the pipeline reports. So that is dependent on working through each of these steps, and it is worth taking the time to work through them for that reason. If I select opportunities here at the top of the screen, and then select this icon here to open up the charts, in the drop-down list, I can then select the sales pipeline reports, and we can see how much revenue here is at the qualify, the develop, and the propose stage. And that's all dependent on working through these different steps. So I'm going to do that now. I'm going to identify the contacts. So I'm going to add into here Alex, and I'm just going to select that Alex Wu. And then now that we've saved this item here, we're prompted to mark that we've covered other items, like working out the estimated budgets. We can add into here the estimated revenue, and so forth. Now these items, they're not mandatory, they're purely prompts with the way this is set up, but you certainly can have this area edited so as these items are mandatory. Now, it may be that we wanted to log the fact that we've had a phone call about this opportunity, or we may want to track emails against it. In the same way that we saw in the activities video, we can add in activities against the opportunity. So on here, if I add a phone call and just type in spoke to Alex regarding the pricing of the configuration. and then select OK. We can track emails into this area. It's exactly the same as we saw earlier. So we can start tracking that information on here. We can then mark on here that we've carried out these actions. We can mark the purchase process. Now it might be that there's certain items that sit later on in this process. We can click ahead and mark those as complete. So it might be that quite early on we know who the sales team are. We might have been able to get our internal review done. So we can click ahead and mark these items as complete. However, on our pipeline graph, this will still show as being at the qualify stage. The reason for that is you'll notice that this gold flag here is still sitting on the initial qualify stage. To progress it through the different sections, all that we need to do is just select this option here where it says next stage. And then you'll see that that's now advanced it on to the next gold flag like so, and it allows us to progress through those stages. So now on here, I can mark on here that we have the customer need. So I'm going to add on to here, replace worn parts. No budget for a new module. And then we can mark in here a little bit more detail. Just going to put in here that we have identified our competitors. Now you will notice on here that you have got a little section there where you can add competitors in if appropriate. So I'm just going to select on here Jefferson Distributors, like so. And then once we've done that, I'm just going to click next stage. And going to mark that we've carried out some extra actions onto here. We could then track our appointment using this activity section. And now at this stage, what I'm going to do is just going to mark up here that this opportunity is closed down as lost. So if I select up here, closed as lost, we can then record 2 reasons why an opportunity may be lost. It may be cancelled or it might be outsold. So I'm going to select outsold on this occasion. We can record the actual revenue. If we want a record of how much revenue we've missed out on by losing this sale, we can include that in like so. The close date, which defaults to today's date, however, it may be that you're only getting around to logging this information a day or 2 after it's happened, and you want to keep the dates accurate. If that's the case, then just click the drop down arrow for the close date and you can then select an earlier date like so. Beneath there we can then select from any of our competitors, and there's some nice out of the box reports on competitor win-lose analysis, and then we'll select OK. I should stress this isn't mandatory information. Appreciate you won't necessarily know this. Likewise, the actual revenue, although that is required, it will accept 0 as a value. So I appreciate you don't necessarily always know the exact figure you're missing out on or who the competitor is when an opportunity is lost. So from there, we'll just select OK. That has now closed down that opportunity. That opportunity is now read-only. And that can now be recorded for our statistics, and it is taken out of the pipeline reporting. If, however, somebody comes back to you fairly soon after losing an opportunity and it becomes live again, you can reopen an opportunity, and that's what I'm going to show you how to do now. All that you need to do to reopen an opportunity is just select this option here where you see my cursor flashing, where we can reopen the opportunity. It's now made that live again. We can then select next stage. And then on here, we can mark that we've done the final proposal. sent the thank you, done the debrief and so forth. And now if I select this option to close as one, we can now see on here, we can record the actual revenue. The figure's taken from the estimated revenue, but it may have changed slightly, so we can overtype it. Close date defaults to today's date, but again, it can be amended. And then we can put a little extra information in the description. Once that's in place, we can then select OK. And that's now recorded that opportunity as one, and that opportunity has now gone to a read-only record. And that's brought us to the end of our session on creating and managing opportunities.